That's also the power of the MAGA media complex too, isn't it? That this is being amplified and echo chambered in a way that keeps the MAGA base engaged, and they want to hear more of that. Something that, of course, Donald Trump has benefited from, but now has bounced back on him. Does he actually know what's happening inside the MAGA media world?
That's I'm trying to put my head into Donald Trump's head right now.
That might be an uncomfortable place.
Yes, well, it's a place that I'm somewhat used to, alas. But I mean, Donald Trump never quite thinks that way, because it's all about what he thinks, not what someone else thinks, and that's a handicap he has here. Because in order for him to understand what's going on, you have to get into that, think what they're thinking. But he doesn't do that. It's so he doesn't. So I would say my conclusion is no, he doesn't exactly know. I mean, he's a reactive guy, and he'll react to the headlines. And his reaction to bad headlines is to create other headlines, which is what is going on now. But again, we are in this very, very unlikely and confusing position that MAGA has gone out. They have created this issue, and it is an issue in which the most vulnerable person may well be Donald Trump.
And is there any parallel? Has he ever been in that mess before?
Well, he's been in so many messes that I'm sure there's a mess for every occasion.
There's also a tweet for every occasion.
I mean, obviously, famously, though, the worst mess that I think that he has been in his political career was the grab them by the pussy tape. And that almost brought him down. And to this day, I'm kind of agog that he, in fact, got out of it. He surmounted that. So who knows? It's Donald Trump. This feels to me like this could be a very serious wound, the Jeffrey Epstein wound, in which you might be able to limp on, but you don't recover from. But I could be absolutely wrong about this, and Trump magic prevails. And again, Epstein who?
Well, you mentioned limp, and I think that's just the right moment to link to the latest medical news about Donald Trump. This is a man who we have known so little about the truth about his medical condition, and everybody will remember that he was photographed with swollen ankles at the Meadowlands Stadium in New Jersey, where he was watching the Soccer World Club Cup Championship. And as a result, a few days later, the White House has released what is probably the most transparent description of his health that we have ever had, saying that he now has been diagnosed with chronic venous insufficiency, and that he had heart scan, echocardiograph to check on his heart health. That's got to be a big psychological thing for Trump to admit, hasn't it?
You would think. I mean, I know that during the campaign, there was a moment where a lot of reporters and photographers caught him with very puffy lobster hands, and he was subsequently asked about this at a news conference. This was actually after he had a meeting with the Teamsters leadership in Washington. Came out, he had a news conference, and somebody said, your hands, we saw pictures of your hands, and they were really puffed up, and we just want to know what's going on with that. And he hesitated, and then he said, it must be AI.
And just for the record, we don't believe it was AI, do we? We saw it in plain sight.
So,
for him to make that admission, is that a sign of his understanding that he's 79 and he's frail? Or is it possibly also a distraction?
Again, yeah, I don't, I mean, it was I found it to be a notable admission. But of course, he's 79 years old, and I mean, it is obviously true.
How does Donald Trump wrestle with mortality? It doesn't seem that he's likely to be self-reflective.
Well, I was just going to say, not the most introspective guy in the world. I think he wrestles with mortality by believing that he is immortal.
And he maybe thought he'd proven it to himself, of course, at Butler, which is almost exactly a year ago. But that also speaks to come back to, what has really been happening this week is the sense of this might be a lame duck presidency, that health issues,
and
a lack of support.
Sorry to interrupt, but I'm just caught by the glaring how much we are now 6 months into this, and he has dominated this entirely. I mean, it is as though he has gone into this presidency determined to defy lame duckness. And he was going to do this by being a pure action figure every day. He would dominate. He would crush. He would humiliate. He would change the nature of the known world. But even doing all that, the timeline is the timeline. You don't defeat it, and he is going to run up against it. If not now, then 6 months from now. If not 6 months from now, 6 months after that. But that would be the limit. I mean, he is, and let's just name it. It is an inescapable political condition. He's a lame duck.
Does he even believe himself he can run for a third term? I mean,
no. He doesn't, he can't, he won't. On top of that, let's go to the other point we're discussing here. He's 79 years old.
And he would be 82 or 3 if he was running for rerunning. And obviously not running, limping because of the ankles. But
yes, I mean, he's already the oldest man to be elected to this office. Yeah, let's not even discuss. That's a distraction, a third term.
So let's just go back again to what's happening inside MAGA. J.D. Vance is handicapped. We talked about Bannon. The other name you mentioned is Tucker Carlson. What are people talking about with Tucker, and how believable is he as a candidate?
Well, I think that I don't know how believable he is as a candidate. I mean, he's believable as a MAGA star and opinionist. He's almost like a dream candidate who might well. If he were to run, everyone wakes up and said this is crazy. But remember, in this world where Donald Trump has been elected president, what's crazy? Tucker has always, or for a long time, has toyed with this. He's toyed with this openly with me, among others, and I think to him it's, well, why not see if this is possible? Why not play it like this? You don't have to run, but maybe he will.
And what's the thought process if you're J.D. Vance? What do you do about somebody like Tucker?
I don't think you do anything now. I mean, I think all you can do is be loyal to your patron and assume that is already an advantage so large that these other people sniping at your heels will ultimately be irrelevant. Now, that may be the case, but of course is not necessarily the case.
So are there other people out there that MAGA, that that want to be or are in the MAGA movement that we should keep our eyes on?
Yeah, well, we'll have to discuss this at length some other time. I mean, I think that, one of the interesting things is that the Republican Party is so dominated by Donald Trump, there really has not been much of an opportunity for other people to emerge. And but now we may be witnessing that opportunity.
So to take it back to Trump, what's going through his head as he sees that opportunity, as he sees people emerging?
He's annoyed. I mean, we see him every day. He's pissed off about this. He's pissed off about the Jeffrey Epstein thing, which he thought he had long ago put to rest. He's annoyed that his people are the ones really beating the drum on this issue. And I think he's a little afraid about what might be out there.
And he's been a master of capturing media attention. And one of the things that was perhaps most noteworthy, as the White House acknowledged his health issues, they also complained that no cable network, and by which they included Fox News, had covered many of his recent events.
Well, they always do that. That's always been a pattern. He has these events which are entirely unnewsworthy. They're just boring. They're just the president coming out and shaking hands with some more or less worthy uninteresting figure, and it's like, well, why doesn't the press cover this rather than cover the most recent controversy? I mean, this is just something that a self-pitying Trump says,
and presumably that we're going to hear a lot more from him because he becomes less interesting as a lame duck.
Yeah, I think we're just beginning to sort of feel around that experience. Trump has been the guy who has dominated the political news for 10 years. And so what is it like when he begins to fade? Well, trust me, he is going to fight against that. But there's a certain poetry to this point in the story when the inevitable happens.
Michael, the only inevitable in Trump world is that we need you back here to talk about the next development. Thank you so much for joining us. The Daily Beast podcast was produced by Devin Rogerino and Anna Van Oosen and edited by Jesse Milward.